everyone. Thank you. So thanks for sticking around. I know everybody's probably itching to get out of here, so I won't take too long. How many people were at the health conference in Erie a couple weeks ago? Anybody? Okay. So not too many people have heard this. I delivered this in Erie too, and you'll find out why in a minute. But my name is Caitlyn Strohmeyer. I am an MSW. I work as a crisis clinician at Safe Harbor Behavioral Health of UPMC Hamlet. I'm also founder and former president of Trans Family of Northwest PA, which is a transgender support and advocacy organization, and I also sit on the Erie Mayor's advisory council, for LGBT Advisory Council. So, a little over 2 years ago, I got an email from a person in obvious psychological pain asking for my help. I quickly learned that this person had emailed me 2 weeks before and I had somehow missed it. But I didn't miss this one. I apologized, and shortly thereafter, they came to sit with me on my front porch, where for 2 hours or more they poured out their heart, as well as a lifetime of unhappiness, anger, hurt, trauma, and confusion. During these 2 hours, I came to realize that we had a tremendous amount in common, including where we grew up, many mutual friends, similar musical tastes, similar interests, and a similar gender identity. By the end of that meeting, she had found that she was not alone, that she would have the best support possible, and that everything would be all right. She told me something along the lines of, if you hadn't replied to the second email, I was going to kill myself because I couldn't stand the thought of living another day without hope. Within a week or two, she and I were best of friends and partners in crime. And shortly after, she introduced herself to the world as Keira Kristine DeSantis. Usually when people experience such a dramatic paradigm shift in their life, there's a lengthy period of adjustment while you get used to your new reality. For transgender people, that can include becoming comfortable enough to share your truth with family and friends, getting up the courage to inform your workplace, setting up providers to help navigate the systems that have traditionally rejected us. Well, not Keira. Once that weight was lifted, she was off to the races, and she never wavered. She was very impulsive and stubborn, and sometimes drove me crazy by ignoring my advice to her own detriment. But I never had a single doubt about who she was or where she needed to be, because we had the same story. We used to joke every time we found another similarity by looking at each other and saying in unison, "Parallels." We were inseparable, and we set about visibly and vocally taking on the world to show what an amazing community transgender and gender nonconforming people comprise. During this time, Keira and I both began our careers at UPMC. Keira was hired at the UPMC Health Plan Call Center. Almost immediately, she was put in contact with executives from the health plan in Pittsburgh. Mind you, this was only 4 months after our first meeting. She was actually hired under her birth name and revealed her true self to HR before starting her first day, which early in her transition was pretty amazing. Keira found UPMC to be very affirming, and she was provided opportunities to speak to groups in Pittsburgh which she had never done before, and she did a great job. She is also asked to be a member of the health plan's transgender task force, which she readily agreed to, and that was followed by her being designated as a transgender liaison for the health plan, helping transgender members navigate their benefits. These are efforts that she took a great amount of pride in, and it stoked the advocate in her. She was even featured in UPMC's First Friday employee magazine last October. I was president of Trans Family of Northwest PA until about 2 months ago. And 2 of my last accomplishments I had was, number 1, getting Keira on our board of directors, and having Keira partner with myself, the health department, and UPMC to be on the planning committee for the Erie Health Conference. We were over the moon to be together on the forefront of a new day in transgender healthcare in Northwest PA. Sorry. Keira always said to me, Caitlyn, just point me in the right direction and I'll do whatever you ask to help this community. She was never fully confident in her abilities to be an effective advocate, but she never backed down from a challenge. On March 25th of this year, Keira realized her lifelong dream of obtaining gender confirmation surgery, followed the next day by a couple of other more cosmetic surgeries. Everything seemed to be fine, and she reveled in the joy of attaining her goal of being socially and physically authentic to her identity. However, there were complications. In what was almost certainly her excitement over finally being physically authentic to herself, she failed to mention that she had the flu a couple weeks prior, or that she had very recently developed a small cough. Don't know if these had anything to do with it, but the night after her second round of surgeries, Keira aspirated in her sleep, sending her into cardiac arrest and causing massive brain damage. Keira never regained consciousness, and she passed away 2 weeks later on April 2nd. I thought I knew everything about her. She was an amazing friend and sister, an incredibly loving parent and jokester, a free spirit. She was also a talented writer, a prolific blogger, and as I learned after her surgeries and subsequent complications, and unfailing support to transgender people all over the world. I was stunned at the messages of love and support that came in to myself, her family, and her fiancé from every corner of the globe. Messages of love and support. Not to mention the level of support that was shared within the community itself. Keira was loved and respected by so many more people than I ever realized. This was because she never spoke a word about the support she provided others. She was, as it turned out, far more humble than I ever realized, and it made me love her even more. Our community was rocked by Keira's tragic passing, but we go on, and will continue to go on, because too many people in this community need people who are willing to stand up and fight. We can't do it alone, though, as we need our cast of supporting roles to make it happen. This includes our allies, our families, and for many, our medical and mental health professionals, and this is the reason we're here today. No one can predict how forthcoming someone will be about what is or has been going on with them, and I don't know if this loss could have been avoided. But having the knowledge to ask the right questions based on someone's identity and knowing how to treat them with dignity and respect goes a long way. I don't know what was in Keira's mind going into those surgeries, but I do feel that things could have been different. If our society weren't so oppressed toward transgender people, we would be more comfortable sharing our truths earlier, or at all. If there were more professionals like yourselves willing to stand up and take responsibility for the competent care of transgender people, we would not experience such tragic health and mental health outcomes. If there were more surgeons willing to learn how to perform the procedures that some of us need to be authentic, we would not have to wait 1 to 2 years, and people would be less inclined to not keep quiet about what is going on with them due to fear of being put off again for however many more months. I wish Keira could have been here to revel in her authenticity and in the knowledge of her accomplishments over the last 2 years. I know that she's smiling in the knowledge that in the future others may not have to live with the fear, self-hatred, and confusion that so many of us, including her, experienced. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. What we do here today may not change the world, but it's the start of changing lives. Thank you. So since that first health conference, those of us on the planning committee discussed this, and we felt that we needed to do something more. So I have an announcement to make. Keira provided support to members of the transgender community worldwide. However, she passionately advocated for those who live in rural areas of Pennsylvania that have fewer resources, such as Northwest Pennsylvania. In 2020, the Kristine DeSantis Transgender Advocacy in Pennsylvania Award will be presented to a person who exemplifies the work that Keira was so passionate about. Nominations will be accepted for advocates to the transgender community in Pennsylvania with preference to advocates working in low-resource areas. Nominations will be voted on by peers in the spring of 2020, and the award will be presented at next year's LGBTQA health conference. Send them to you? Okay, we'll figure that out. So, going forward, we'll now have an award in her name for transgender advocacy in PA, so I'm very excited about that. Thank you.